Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm James.
And welcome to the Cornwall Property Podcast, where every week we bring you the latest news, hot topics and guidance around the Cornwall property market.
Stay tuned to be informed, inspired and to have any of your property related questions answered by trusted local property professionals.
Welcome back, I'm Dan.
I'm James.
And this is episode 74 of the Cornwall Property Podcast. And again, we are welcoming our fantastic guests from Vickery Holman. We have got Alan and Morwenna. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Hello.
So this is our, one of my favourite types of episodes, James. What we've got on?
What have we not got on? We've got some great questions for us here today, and I will kick us off with the first one that we've got from Steve in Helston, who asks the following. What would you say is a popular investment commercially in 2023? Is there a type of property that investors are currently going for? I'll be quite interested to hear this one. Great question there, Steve.
Yeah, so I'll kick off, Moreenna. You can chip in where you like.
Sounds good.
The industrial sector has ridden out pandemics and everything else the strongest in this last few years and shown a good deal of rental growth as well. So everybody's keen on industrial. As long as it's relatively modern, so we're not looking back in the sort of asbestos roof sort of days and that sort of thing. So people gravitate towards the best quality they can get hold of, which often means the most modern stock they can get. So industrial is where everybody wants to go, or a lot of people. The snag with that is just people aren't selling unless they really are driven to for some reason. But most investors that we act for and so on are fairly comfortable with what they own.
Sure.
So industrial is the hottest sort of property.
We see good rent levels in that too, and good demand for people wanting to come back and rent properties.
That's right. The demand is very strong for industrial stuff. So even if they did get a void coming up, the demand is still very, very good for that.
Which then joins in with your investors just don't want to sell, because why would you sell something that's great and got good interest? And
It's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah, literally.
So in a way, the second part of the answer to that then is where are there more opportunities, really, I suppose, because the most popular, you need to actually buy something to make it popular in the first place, I guess. Industrial's hot, but there are opportunities in other things. There's a lot of things which retail, for instance, which retail's had a sort of checkered sort of time for many years now, almost since the advent of the internet and online shopping and all the other pressures, out of town shopping, etc., etc. But there's still a hardcore of people who want to trade in the town centres, but they may now be sort of coffee shops and beauty and other things which you can't do online.
And also in Cornwall, where we've got such popular coastal towns, you've got those smaller businesses, like look at Tarquinton. They've actively opened many shops across Cornwall, like opening one in Falmouth and one in Foy, I think just last year. They're actively trying to be there because that's their target market.
Yeah. And then those retail properties, which more often than not have always got upper parts. That's where we advise clients, or we have clients who are keen on the idea of just taking back those upper parts and taking them into residential. I'll take them back to residential very often, because most of these retail occupiers now don't want all those upper parts of storage. They don't keep the stock they used to.
Sure.
And very often, it's more than just putting a new staircase in or whatever. There's a lot more to it than that. But there is value in liberating those upper floors. And I think people's attitude to living in places like that as well now is coming back. That they want to be in town, being in town, and it's not. Some of our towns are an easier sell on that basis because they're perhaps a student town like Falmouth or a county town like Truro or something like that. But I think it's starting to work in most other places as well.
And we go back to what we said in the last podcast, that people just want to diversify what's happening in their property. Where your income's coming from, how you're paying.
You can
from the shop.
You can cope if the shop's empty for a little bit, because you can, your flats are taking care of it, or vice versa.
Yeah, washing its face.
Especially, it's just have to be careful on what type of business you put in the downstairs. If you are going to be building residential above, because some mortgage lenders don't like certain types, such as fast food outlets, things like that. Whereas a higher fire risks, things like that to bear in mind. But that's stuff that we're definitely interested in. Commercial opportunities on the ground floor where you can diversify and add value to the upper floors for sure. Because go back to it, just rewind. Well, why do shops not want or need this extra space because of the speed in which you can get things these days. Look at Amazon, for example, next day delivery. So you don't need to hold vast amounts of stock, do you?
No.
That potentially might not sell. As well. That's the risk, isn't it? You buy all this stock up and
dead money.
It's dead money. Exactly.
Yeah.
But then that also then fuels the story that you've just shared with what's hot in the market. What's the industrial units? Because generally, who's else? Like Hermes or what it's called now. Is those are the type of companies I'm assuming that
some of it's distribution like that. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of businesses can work out of an industrial building these days. That's the thing, particularly better quality. So, who'd have thought, perhaps looking back 20 years or so, that now in our industrial estates, almost everyone's got a gym and some of them are converted to offices and some are some other uses, that it's a real variety now. Which is another reason which makes industrial so solid, because people can turn buildings.
Such a vast array of
you appeal to so many different people. The office market as well. There's some good value in offices as well. Office occupiers are still trying to work out where they sit, and what do they hear? Your average office person who sits at a desk used to go in maybe the equivalent of 4 days a week. Now they go in 1.5 days a week. Hybrid, or something. So everybody's still getting to grips with that entirely. But office buildings as bricks and mortar, still are good value.
And they do provide a lot of space that has flexibility, because normally they're very big, open, rectangular rooms.
Very true.
So whether it's eventually for conversion or just you find the right office tenant, because there are still office tenants, there are still people who want offices.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
For sure. No, thank you. I think that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Very
Great
helpful.
value for Steve. Thank you, Steve, as well, for the question and for answering it, guys.
Last one. Are you ready for this? Brace yourselves. We've got Joanne from Falmouth. Joanne got in touch and she said, thank you so much for all the amazing content you guys put in the podcast. Thank you, Joanne. Glad you like it. My husband and I are looking to invest in a listed commercial opportunity in Truro. Fantastic. Which involves a number of areas we have little experience in, such as business rates, party wall issues, valuations, leases, and general overall property management. Wow, Joanne. We are a little overwhelmed, no surprises there, and looking for some guidance and words of advice. Well, it looks like Joanne's got a lot on her hands. No wonder she's overwhelmed. Must be a good opportunity as well. But, I think you guys are best placed to answer all of those, really.
Yeah.
So we've got business rates, party wall issues, valuations, leases, and property management.
Yeah, we can cope with that. Yeah, I think what you're right, and Joanne there with the question is it's not just about negotiating the price. There's a lot of things, and as soon as you get other consultants involved, maybe your solicitor or whatever, they'll open your eyes to these different things that need to be thought about. Have you thought of X, Y, and Z? And that's when it becomes it grows arms and legs a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, as a firm and other firms like ourselves, we'd be looking at a survey early doors to make sure there's a building survey to make sure, particularly with listed building and so on. There's issues there that and a building surveyor could also advise if you're looking at converting or if there's any neighbourly matters with sort of next door or
she mentions party walls, isn't it? Yeah.
Party walls. So it might be something that they're looking at which they may be thinking of converting, or somebody's alerted them to the fact there's potential to convert and extend or something. So hence the party wall sort of idea comes in. What do we also talk about there?
So what, valuations, leases, business rate? Listed building, business rates.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah, because we've spoken about before, haven't we? Before we started recording, that listed buildings, when they're void or vacant, you don't pay business rates, which is actually at least one benefit of a listed building.
Yeah, and also
there is one.
Yeah,
other than being lovely. Yeah.
And you get great period features in a listed building as well.
Yes, you can't put a price on those.
Yeah,
for sure.
They're antiques. They're always going to go up in value.
So business rates, if it wasn't a listed building, there's a lot around that. These business rates probably the second biggest outgoing with a property, and even if you're a landlord, not a tenant, you want your business rates to be sort of on the keens. If they look a bit higher, they need appealing or whatever. You want to keep an eye on those, because it affects the viability of it for your tenant at the end of the day.
Especially since the release of the new list that came out at the beginning of April.
The new rating list.
Something to have in mind to double check now.
I was only looking at a retail shop that we're about to put on the market last night, actually, and the rateable value hasn't changed from the last list to the new list, and that's not what the tone has really been. So I think we'll be recommending to the landlord of that, even though it's a vacant shop, and he'll hopefully not have to pay the rates, because we'll let it to somebody else. The fact that the rates haven't changed is probably not quite right.
No, because they're on a downward trend for retail property.
So that's another a benefit, really, isn't it? It's a perk, surely. So you're saying that the business rate should hopefully be cheaper.
Yeah.
So again, that's an advantage, isn't it?
Well, it is.
You wanted to make it look more attractive.
That's the incentivization, I think, that it is cheaper to kind of run.
Yeah, so that's good for a tenant, which is ultimately good for a landlord. I think also property management was mentioned in there, which you can never get a property manager if you're looking at something. I suppose never get them engaged almost early enough in a way, because at least they'll be they can look at whether there's a service charge budget or who's been running it in the past or whatever, and come up with a few pointers initially with a view to then pick the thing up if they're successful in buying later on.
So for Joanne here, business rates, Joanne, you shouldn't have to worry because it's grade 2 listed. Party walls, definitely you, Vickery Holman can help. We've used Vickery Holman previously with party wall acts, and the surveyors there are fantastic, and they can act on yours and both parties' sides. Valuations, again, that's bread and butter really for you guys, isn't it? We work with you on a number of valuations. Leases, would you guys get involved with the lease side of things?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're very active on the landlord and tenant sort of side of things. So that's really important. Again, talk about bread and butter for us, because obviously we sell and let stuff, but there's that ongoing business which in 3 years or 5 years or whenever there's a rent review, lease renewal, that sort of stuff. So and also just have a look at the lease in the first place to see what whether there's any holes in that lease which perhaps we as property people can see very quickly,
understand it
that a buyer, particularly an inexperienced buyer, it might be the first time they've read that 70-page document, which is
so that's something you guys could offer and help with then, a bit of hand holding in that respect. No, brilliant. And then obviously property management, you guys could help there potentially too. So I think it's Joanne, I think these guys could answer your questions. Heavens have opened.
In the chat for sure.
But no, thank you so much. And again, Joanne, I think the real important thing here, I just get across is that you're never on your own. Like there's always people out there, and you cannot be an expert in everything. So please don't expect yourself to be like James and I. We deal with commercial listed properties day in, day out at the minute for what we're doing. And again, we're not experts in all of this, but the reason we are so confident in where we're going is because we've got experts that we can call upon to help us with those areas. So don't be afraid to ask questions.
Get the right help.
Exactly that.
Sure, we can't be masters of everything. So go and find the people who know and have got years and years of experience. They'll guide you. We're not just saying this because we got you guys on the show. We have done a lot of business with you guys in the past, and we've been very happy with the service. And I mean that big time. It's good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No, I think it's like they used to tell you at school, isn't it? Just ask the question, because if you're asking a question, you're not the only person who you're not the first person to ever ask that question. You won't be the last either. So.
Definitely.
And again, that's the experts in each department, and they're more than willing to help.
Yeah, exactly that. And we can't sing the praises enough. So again, I think that's the value in these sort of Q&A episodes as well. The sort of feedback we get is they're not, Joanne won't be the first person to ask about a commercial listed building, but hopefully this will help give other people confidence. And look, get out there. There's going to be opportunities, as we discussed in the last episode. And as long as you equip yourself with the right tools and the right toolbox, as we mentioned, I don't think you should be fearful of anything really. Just do your numbers, make sure you've got the professionals behind you to give you guidance and advice, and invest wisely.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us once again, and hope you've enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you for having us.
And all the best with your next few years ahead of you, Morwenna.
Thank you.
You'll absolutely smash it. But look, guys, thank you ever so much for getting in touch, Joanne and Steve as well. And if anyone else wants to, James is here to guide you to do so.
That's it. You can get in contact with us on our social media platforms such as Facebook and Instagram, or like many of you do, get in contact with us on email, which is podcast@cl-property.com. Please do remember to share, like, or anybody else that that might find this information useful, or Vickery Holman for that matter. Please do share all the information, because we're all in this together in Cornwall. We just want to help people be involved with property with the right people. So thank you for listening.
Fantastic. Thanks, this is Alan and Morwenna from Vickery Holman, and if they want to get in touch with you guys, they do that.
VickeryHolman.com would probably be as good a shout as any, but obviously we're all over LinkedIn and other social media.
And if you're on our website, you can check out our teams in each office, so we're all listed there, and you can see what we specialise in, and then it will give you our emails and telephone numbers to contact directly.
Absolutely. Yeah,
excellent. Website is the best place. But guys, thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Thanks guys.
That's episode 74 over and out. Goodbye from me.
Bye from me.